Ja, Servus, schönen guten Tag. Nicht so schüchtern sein, gerne nach vorne kommen. Ist man noch näher an der Heizung dran übrigens. Ja, herzlich willkommen zu unserer heutigen Presserunde. Wieder im Leonardo Royal Hotel Munich, diesmal in der Almhütte. Herrliches Setup. Haben wir uns natürlich extra ausgesucht für unseren Special Guest heute. Und wir switchen dann auch gleich auf Englisch. Ich hoffe, das ist okay. Wenn jemand Schwierigkeiten hat, gerne auf Deutsch fragen, dann helfen wir da weiter oder auch mit übersetzen. Yeah, we're here today to present a very special new member of the Munich Ravens. It's not every day that you have a press conference for an offensive line coach. But it's not just any offensive line guy. Maybe the best left tackle in NFL history. I think he would say yes to that.
I wouldn't argue it.
Welcome, Joe Thomas, to the Munich Ravens. Sean Shelton, bekannt, unser Sportdirektor. Yeah, like I said, we would try to do the whole thing in English. If anybody has any English issue, just let us know. First off, just a couple questions to these two guys, and then it's completely up to you, your show. There's the microphone there. You either walk there or just grab the microphone, please. Joe, first question, and it's maybe the question. Could have been Cleveland, could have been Wisconsin, could have been anywhere. Why Munich?
Well, that's actually the question that the Wisconsin Badgers head coach asked me when he found out I was going to Munich. He's like, dude, you just would have drive down the road 10 minutes and you could have coached for me. Why are you going over to Germany to coach? But I think when I was over here 2 years ago working the NFL Germany game, I quickly made a connection with Bavaria in the city of Munich and German football. And I realized at that point that Germans and the German culture and the ELF is very uniquely set up for some great success. And it was kind of my dream at that moment, like, hey, I want to bring some of the knowledge that I have from the NFL, some of my background, and try to teach these guys and have an opportunity to do something really special in the city of Munich in Bavaria. And if I can bring my family along the way, I think that would make the story and the journey even that much more special for me. And hopefully the players that I get a chance to coach would appreciate it and be able to maximize the potential that I think they have. And I'm German descent, and I'm a big guy. And it seems like in Germany they got a lot of big guys that are pretty tough. They're pretty hardworking. They're pretty disciplined. They like being coached hard. And for me, getting into coaching for the very first time this year, that's the type of person that I wanted to coach, that has a really high ceiling. And having an opportunity to meet some of the guys in the week since I've been here, that's exactly the type of players that you guys have done an amazing job bringing to the Munich Ravens and giving me some incredibly talented, gifted young men that are really eager for some tough, hopefully good coaching from me to bring that championship here and allow me to kind of live out my dream.
All right. Sean, maybe you can just let the audience know a little bit about what Joe's role will be, or already has been.
Yeah, has been is the correct way to say it. First and foremost, just how lucky are we as a Ravens organization to have Joe kind of fall into our laps, and how fortunate that was to have that NFL game there 2 Novembers ago, I guess now. It makes my job a lot easier. You know, doing a great job bringing in offensive linemen. Well, it's about the easiest recruiting pitch you can possibly come up with. I mean, here's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You want it or you don't want it. But so in terms of recruiting, he was very active in recruiting. It's been so cool to see somebody who's been at the pinnacle of the sport in the position that he played, and wears a gold jacket for that, be so energetic and enthusiastic about what we're doing here. And that was from the very beginning. I mean, I was on a phone with a player when you followed them on Instagram. And it was like, Joe Thomas just followed me on Instagram. It was like, do you want to play for him or do you not want to play for him? You know? And so that has been huge. Our offensive line, I'm very confident in saying that we'll be, if not one of the best offensive line in the ELF, and that was the goal that we set out from the very beginning. And so Joe's been hugely influential in that in terms of now moving forward, we had our first session on Sunday, where Joe finally got his hands on some of the guys. That'll continue to progress moving forward. And then with, the dynamic duo of Joe, his assistant offensive line coach, and potentially some other help, we'll work with OTAs and just continue to develop the offensive line in the capacity that we have it into season. And so Joe's influence has been undescribably large for just an offensive line coach, and will be moving forward.
One more from me before we'll
Sure.
give it to the media.
Yeah.
Maybe you can give us a little insight on how that first meeting with players, coaches went for you.
Well, it's been a great week. I've been here just over a week and trying to get my life and work back in America wrapped up at the same time of moving my wife and my 4 kids out here and moving into a city from being out in the country in Wisconsin, kind of flipping our lives on its head has been challenging and fun at the same time. I've always enjoyed a challenge in my life. And that was one of the reasons why, but when I brought it up to my wife, Annie, like, hey, you want to go live in Germany and coach football and bring the kids over there for a season? She was all about it because she, like I, uniquely enjoys a challenge and she likes an adventure. And, that was part of what brought us together, but part of what brought our family out here to Munich and allowed my kids to love their first day of school. And their first day of school, the butterflies that they had was the same butterflies that I had the first time I got a chance to go and work with my guys. Because like I said, I coached my son's 7-year-old football team last fall, but that was my first foray into coaching. And I just feel some really great expectations, and I have really high expectations for myself and for my players. And I feel a lot of pressure on myself to get the most out of them and to deliver them everything and more that I promised them when I was recruiting them this fall, and when I've talked with the players before the off-season program even started and the coaches. Like, I want to deliver way more than what they expect. And so I was pretty nervous that first time I met those guys. Like, I was going in there and I really told them as part of my recruiting pitch that it's not just going to be me hopefully telling you what to do. I want to be there showing you what to do. And I know I'm a little bit limited orthopedically because I've got a lot of arthritis. Otherwise, I'd be playing in the NFL still. But everything I can do, I want to do with you guys. Not like from an ego standpoint, but I want to hopefully be the best coach you'll ever have, because I can tell you how to do it, but I can show you hopefully how to do it as well, because I did it 11 years in the NFL. And I loved the first opportunity, meeting them, working with them, getting a chance to lift weights with them, run with those guys, starting to show them some of the offensive line drills and techniques, and hopefully that'll pay big dividends for us down the road this summer.
Gibt es Fragen, questions? Kannst du das Mikro nehmen?
You mentioned it. You brought your whole family.
Yeah.
What is your plan? Is it a one-season plan or is it an open-end plan?
Yeah, I usually live my life one day at a time. So the longest I could plan out was through this summer and through this season. I don't ever say never to anything in my life. I'm always willing to listen and talk and think about things. I'm very thoughtful before I speak typically and before I make any plans. But I'm definitely certain I'm fully committed for this season, and I want to do everything I possibly can to give this team in Munich and Bavaria everything I have to be the best version of ourselves at the end of the season in September. Be very proud of where this thing ends up, but we'll see what happens.
Okay, one more. How many suitcases did you need?
Yeah, so 21, and none of them were under 50 pounds, but all of them were under 70, because that was the limit of what they were going to allow us to bring on the plane. So our hallway the day we left was lined with 20 suitcases, and we brought our nanny over with us to help us get settled into school, especially with me jumping right into coaching. I knew we were going to have some help getting the kids into school and stuff. Plus, we needed 2 more suitcases with her allowance. And I had the scale laid out in the hallway, and I was weighing all those things to make sure we had exactly 70 pounds. But I did leave all my Munich Ravens gear at home. So, Sebastian, you're going to need to talk to the equipment guy because I need a lot of the free swag, because there's been a lot of people back home already asking me, hey, where'd you get that Munich Ravens sweatshirt? How do I get that one with the pretzel? That thing is pretty sweet. And I had an exchange student when I was in high school from Milan, Italy. Half of her family was from Switzerland. My parents and her parents were very good friends. Well, actually, her mom and my mom were exchange students together when they were in high school, and so it's like second generation. But my parents are coming over in February to ski with us, and then they're going to go visit her. And they're like, hey, we need some of those Munich Ravens hats so we can give to Steffi and her family. And I'm like, hey, those are not just for everybody. Like, you got to earn those things. So I'll think about it.
Hey, Joe, welcome to Munich. I don't know,
Thank you.
You've been here a while, but I'll still say it. You're pretty well known here for your snap streak, which is quite remarkable.
Okay.
I was wondering, this is probably, I suppose this is not just being lucky. How did you do that? What was the key things to achieve such a streak?
So I tell the story that my dad never missed a day of work for like 25 years when he was working. And he said one day in Wisconsin, we get a lot of snow too. They had like 18 inches of snow, and he had a 10-mile commute to work, and all the roads were closed. And he said, I never considered not going to work, like whether you were sick or whether you didn't feel like it or you had something going on. You just got up and you went to work. That was how he was raised by his dad, and that's how I was raised by my dad. So he had 18 inches of snow, and he went in the garage, grabbed his cross-country skis, and he skied to work because that's just what you do. And I think it was just kind of part of how I was raised, that if you say you're going to do something, you do it, and then you have the beauty of not having to think about it every morning. Should I or shouldn't I do my job? And that was the approach that I always took in football and in sports, was like, these guys expect me to be there. They've expected me to be the person that I say I am, and I'm not going to let anything get in my way. Obviously, at the end of my career, I tore my tricep tendon in my elbow, but I knew that when my career is going to be over, I knew it was going to be over. And so I didn't ever have to worry and think about, ooh, am I too injured to play? Like, am I too tired? Like, that never crossed my mind, because I never allowed it a space in my mind from the day I was born until now. It's like, that's just what you do. That's who you are. That becomes part of your identity. And I think a big part of that was my parents. And my parents are big Germans, and so they're very durable, so they don't get hurt a lot either. So that having good DNA helps a little bit.
And now, being a coach, I suppose your main goal is to transform that attitude to your new players.
Yeah, I hope that some of the things that I've learned from my parents and from the great coaches that I've had, I'm going to have an opportunity to offer that as a gift to my players, and to try to show them and to teach them the ways that I did it. Not that they have to do it just like I did, but I think the mindset is a really big and important part of playing football and playing on the offensive line, which is not the glory position. I know that's not news to anybody, but we're not scoring any touchdowns, and usually we're not having press conferences. I said to our offensive coordinator, Kyle, this morning, because he wanted to have a meeting. I said, oh, sorry, I got a press conference. He goes, whoa, big shot. I got a press conference. I said, yeah, hopefully as an offensive line coach, this is the last time the media wants to talk to me, because usually they only talk to the offensive line coach when your guys mess up and they give up sacks and penalties. So hopefully the glory and the spotlight will be on everyone else the rest of the season, and nobody will want to talk to me.
I got one more. I believe as a player, you never reached the playoffs. So how important is it?
Get this guy out of here. Next question.
I'm a Steelers fan, by the way.
Oh, yeah, right. He's a plant.
No, but how important is it for you to reach the playoffs? I mean, the Ravens last season missed it by this. How important is it for you to, achieve goals this way?
So I told my guys the first time we met on Sunday and we worked together, I said, you know, I have 3 goals for us for this season. I said, the first goal is I want to have fun. I want this to be a great experience for me, and I know it will be the adventure that it is already, but I want it to be fun for you guys. Number 2, I want you guys to reach whatever level and whatever potential you have to be the best version of yourself. I know some of the guys that we've brought in from outside of Munich that weren't on the Ravens last year have aspirations of playing in America, playing in North America, playing at the high level in the NFL like I did. And if that's their goal and they have the potential to do that, I want to help them reach that goal. So I want everyone to be able to be the best version of themselves and to reach whatever dream that they have in football, and I want to help them reach that. And number 3, I said I want to win because winning is fun. Winning is fun. And we've talked amongst ourselves on our chat group that we have as an offensive line about what that goal is, and we'll kind of keep that between us. But certainly as a guy that never reached the playoffs, my dream of winning a championship is real, and that's the ultimate goal when you're a competitor and when you're an athlete in whatever sport you're in. You want to win, you want to be the best, because that's how you measure the success or failure of a season as a professional. And I think the beauty of those goals and those things that we're trying to achieve is that they're all tied together. If each one is individually becoming the best version of themselves, that will give our team the best chance for success, to win a championship, and to live the dream that we all have right now, and we'll all have a lot of fun doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Joe. You said you want to bring out the best version of your players, of your team. In terms of what you have seen so far, lies their particular potential?
Well, it's been really cool. When I got to the NFL, there was no social media, and so the ability to like video yourself and put it out there or to send it to your coach really wasn't there. But getting a chance to study my offensive line group since we've got them all signed and under contract has been really fun, because they'll send me videos of themselves in the weight room and some of their video from last year or from years past. And the players that we have are very talented. They don't have the history of playing football like I did growing up in America when I started at 12, which was kind of late. And the coaching that I had from the time that I was a youth until I was in the NFL. And I see potential in many of them at a level of the guys that I played with in the NFL. They just don't have that experience. They don't have that coaching background. Because the game of football, especially on the offensive line, is a million individual and unrelated skills that you have to put together. And it just takes a lifetime of learning it. So hopefully, with my experience playing in the NFL, and then with some of the other coaches that they're going to be working with, which are top shelf coaches, we'll accelerate that learning curve a little bit, and we'll have an opportunity to get their full potential, because they are some of the most talented players that I've been around from a physical skill set standpoint. I mean, big, strong, fast, tough, explosive. Like, those are the things you need on the offensive line, and those guys have it. And I cannot wait to get my hands on them when we're putting the pads on and on the practice field and on the fields on Sunday.
And another question, what do you think about winter in Munich? How do you enjoy it?
Nice and warm compared to where I'm from. No, it was really cool. I mean, it's just been a whirlwind week of pure joy since we got here, because the first couple of days, it was like kind of rainy and windy. Not my favorite weather. Like, that's Cleveland weather. Like, I like the snow better. And as soon as we got the snowstorm, I took the kids and we walked to the English Garden, and we had a big snowball fight for like 2 hours. We started building snow forts, and we were climbing on the trees, and it felt like being back home. And it felt immediately being here that like, this is our new home right now, and how fun this journey is going to be. So your answer is I like snow.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
A warm welcome from me as well. You said earlier that the NFL Munich game, the Germany game here, lured you over here. What was the process like of getting in touch with the Ravens, with the league, and getting over here?
Yeah, so I was actually traveling in Europe with my 2 oldest daughters and my wife right before the NFL Munich game, and I was working for NFL Network at the time. So we were in Barcelona, and I left them to fly to Munich to work the game. And as soon as I landed here, I saw like hundreds of thousands of NFL jerseys. And in my mind, I just assumed that they were American fans that came and wanted an experience in Europe to watch a game. But then as soon as I started hearing them speak and I started just walking around, I realized that these were all German fans that had just bought whatever NFL jersey they could find. Yeah, and it was a passion for the NFL and for American football that I didn't expect, and I was really shocked by it. And then I had heard, because I did Good Morning Football the first day I was here, that there was 1 million ticket requests for the game at Allianz. Like within an hour, they were sold out. And I was just blown away with the passion for American football here. And that was one of the light bulb moments where I was like, whoa, like this would be a great place to be part of building something special in American football, because the passion is there. Like the players, they're there. Like the potential is just really untapped. And the NFL Network put us on a podcast, Football Bromance, with Bjorn Werner and Patrick Asume. And I had played against Bjorn in the NFL. But I actually didn't realize until I did their podcast that Patrick was one of the coaches in Cleveland when I was a rookie. And I was a rookie, so I didn't say a word. Like all I was worried about was my playbook and what I was doing on the practice field. And he was a special teams assistant, so I didn't really know him. But when we were talking after doing the podcast, I mentioned to him like how impressed I was with the fan base, but also the city of Munich and Bavaria, and that my wife and I had always talked about living internationally with our kids someday, because she lived a year in the UK with her family and just had such amazing experiences and memories from that year, and that it was something that I would be interested in doing with my family. And he said to me, okay, where do you want to coach? And I was like, hey, Munich seems amazing. That would be my dream spot. I realized that I'm an offensive line coach and I've never coached before, so maybe I don't get to just like choose. It's not free agency, maybe, I don't know. But if you could hook me up with somebody in Munich with the Ravens, I would be grateful just to explore the opportunity. And honestly, I don't even know who he reached out to. Maybe it was you, Sebastian, but he put me in contact, and I eventually got in contact with Sebastian and expressed my interest. And I would love to hear from you, but were you thinking that I was serious about it? Or were you like, yeah, I'll just talk to this guy and see what happens and be cordial and nice? But I mean, it seemed to take off pretty quickly, and I'm glad you trusted me that I was serious about actually coming over here and doing this.
I know Patrick since my days back in NFL Europe, so we're close friends. And he texted me, I think when he had this Football Bromance event.
Yeah.
Hey, here's the number of Joe Thomas. Get in contact with him. He wants to do something in Munich.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get on a call and see what something in Munich means. Really had no clue if it was any stakes in ownership, or if it was coaching, or maybe playing again. Who knows? And then you were very straightforward, and obviously we were extremely excited, because why would anyone say no to Joe Thomas wanting to join your team? So we got off from there, and I remember the first time I told Sean, he was like,
he's like, what do you think about Joe Thomas coaching the offensive line? I was like, what? It's not a sentence I expected to hear.
And I was honestly happy to do anything. If they would have asked me to be the video guy or the equipment guy, I know we got a great equipment manager in Tuan, although I think he's still on vacation because he's got everything locked up. We didn't get any footballs when we were practicing on Sunday, but I was just willing to be involved in any way I could. Like, if I can help in any way and be part of building this franchise and helping Bavaria and Munich reach a championship, like, I want to be part of it. And so the opportunity to coach offensive line, which is my specialty, was perfect for me. And I think probably the last piece of the puzzle, my family had no red flags whatsoever. But the thing that I think gave us enough confidence to completely jump is that one of our friends from college, Ben Street, he went to Wisconsin. He plays on the Munich Red Bulls hockey team. And his wife, Jess Stoltenberg, now Street, was on the track team with me at Wisconsin. Her and my wife are good friends. And they've been over here 3 years. And they just talk about the amazing experiences they've had in Munich, how welcoming everybody had been there for them, how they've created these great bonds, not only with the Americans on the team, but with the Germans. And that was all we had to hear. We're like, all right, this is the right decision for me and for our family.
Did you say you were on the track team at Wisconsin?
I was. I was not running. I was shot put and discus. And I've already mentioned to some of our linemen, because I kind of developed some of my technique based on my history as a shot putter. And I was showing them some drills on Sunday, and they couldn't figure it out right away. And I was like, like you throw the shot put, you create this force from the ground in your feet. And they looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, do you not understand my English? And they're like, no, we understand, but we didn't throw shot put. I'm like, dude, I thought everybody in Germany had to throw shot put. There's these great, don't you know who Ulf Timmerman was? The guy was a beast.
I was doing the same thing with quarterback clamps. I was like, it's like swinging a baseball bat.
Yeah, all right, we got to think of a different analogy here next time. So I got to come back. That was poor coaching on my part. I didn't give you the tools necessary to succeed. I thought everybody knew who Ulf Timmerman was, but I guess not.
Speaking of the tools you want to give your team to succeed, what are maybe some main principles that you want to implement, especially since you're doing this step from a former player to now a coach?
Mm-hmm. I want to help them see the game the way I saw it. I want to help them build a process that works for them on how to learn football, and then how to correct themselves and go out and practice, and then come back to the meeting room, make those corrections, and get better at one thing every single day. I think that was one of the big things that I was able to do as a player, is to kind of build a process for me that helped me learn and to get a little bit better every single day. And so that was the first thing after we had our meeting with Kendra last night that I wrote down, because I took a bunch of notes. I was all fired up because Kendra got me really fired up after our meeting, and I couldn't go to sleep. And so I was writing in my notebook, and the first thing I wrote was like, bring a notebook to every meeting. Notes are important. If you make one mental mistake, I'm going to mandate notes. If you make no mental mistakes, you don't have to take any notes. But I want to teach you how to take notes and teach you how to watch practice, teach you how to get better at one thing every single day, and have every day be goal-oriented towards, all right, what am I trying to get better at today, and how am I going to do it? And then to evaluate yourself so that they can coach themselves. So even if I'm not there on a day for whatever reason, they could be better at coaching themselves than I could be at coaching them. And so I think if we can do that with my guys individually, that we're going to be very successful, and they're going to get so much better. At the end of the season, they're going to look back at themselves at the beginning of the season and not even recognize that person.
You said you're here for just like a week. How did you settle in, and have you found a place yet, or are you still in a hotel with 20 suitcases? 21, sorry. Yes,
thankfully we're not in a hotel. We found an apartment. I realized that having 4 children in Munich is too many, so I think I may ship a couple away. But we actually did find an apartment that was big enough for the family, which was probably the biggest stressor of the whole thing, honestly. In November, I don't know, in the US, like, we rent places far in advance, but here it was like, no, you can't even look for an apartment until like a month or 2 before you get there. And so that was my job in our family, like, find a place to live. Okay, that shouldn't be a problem. Like, I played in the NFL. There's not as many limitations as guys that are coming over here that haven't been retired from the NFL. I'm like, okay. But they didn't exist. And so for 3 or 4 weeks, I was waking up at 2:30 in the morning in American time and just going through all these different websites looking for apartments. And I couldn't find anything, because as soon as I would email somebody, it was like 5 people had already put in an offer and got the rental. And so I had a lot of stress. And I remember the day we found an apartment and I signed that contract, I was in tears in our kitchen and I hugged my wife. Andy, we did it. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you don't have any idea how stressed I was to be able to find a place because one, it's really hard. Like the apartment market in Munich is very, very, very competitive. And I've already made these commitments to everybody on the Ravens, and we've already talked about it, and our kids know we're going, we've already paid tuition for school. Everything's already set up, but we have nowhere to live, and we can't just go live in a hotel with 6 people. So that was probably the most stressful part thus far, and thankfully I'm not currently living in a hotel with 21 suitcases.
Congratulations on that. Thank you.
Thank you. That is honestly, if we win a championship, that'll be number 2 to finding an apartment in Munich.
Well, congratulations from me too. So
Thank you.
That's really something. Given your experience, I was wondering, what is your communication on the coaches team in terms of hierarchy? Are you allowed to tell the head coach stuff that you consider important? What are your plans on that?
Yeah, I believe very strongly from players to coaches, from me to the head coach to Sean and Sebastian and Thomas, there should be nothing that's ever left unsaid, because I think to build trust in any relationship, you never want to wonder what that person is thinking. So if I have some input, I'm going to tell Kendall, I'm going to tell Kyle, I'm going to tell Sean. I don't expect them to have to take that as gospel and to implement whatever thoughts I have. But I think it's important to build that trust from the bottom all the way to the top with, hey, we know exactly what you're thinking. I told my guys that on Sunday. I said, don't ever let a question go unasked. If you don't understand something that I said, or if you disagree with anything I said, I want to hear about it, because maybe I didn't think about it from that angle, and maybe I can be better as a coach if you tell me that thing. And I think it's the same thing with me and Kendall and me and Kyle, our offensive coordinator, me and Sean. We all have vastly different experiences. They're not better or worse, they're just different. I know I played in the NFL and I had 9 offensive coordinators, so I played in every offense that the NFL has. I've had 6 head coaches and 2 owners, so I've seen a lot of ways to do it. Some were good, some were bad, but it wasn't all good or all bad. There was always little things that I would pull from other coaches, offenses, strategies, just approaches to how you coach players that I liked. And hopefully that's who I've become as a player. And I think that's one of the things that I want to hopefully bring to our coaching staff, is a different experience than they had, that maybe they can lean into some of that and maybe become a better coach because I was able to give them maybe a different perspective on how to get to a player, or how to run a game plan, or to run a practice, or run a schedule even. And I think that's important for all of us to have that growth mindset of always trying to be better and never be fixed in this approach of this is how we do it, and I don't really care. I know that this is the best way to do it, because I think it's ever changing.
I think actually, to add to that, it's one of the great assets of having Joe here is just the fact that he's been in one of the biggest college teams in the U.S., in the NFL for a long time, very successful, and that, everything he's going to say, of course we're going to listen, because he's very experienced. He's seen a lot. We're a very new, very young franchise, not just on the field, but also in the front office. So every little idea or little, tip or little, hey, you could do it like this, like that, we will listen, because this is really a big asset for us.
We're obviously very thrilled to have you here in Munich, and you were talking about the ambitions of the team that has had a winning record in its first season, and now this can be like a kick-starting moment. What is the long-term ambition of the team? Because you were talking about the offensive lineman recruiting, which is obviously super easy now, but it also spills over into other areas of the team. And into coaching staff and into many other things. What is the long-term ambition now that you have such a caliber statue here in Munich?
I think the long-term outlook of the franchise hasn't changed with the addition of Joe. It's just Joe's helped in that process, especially in the immediate future. But the ambitions of the organization is to be the best place for any football player in Europe to play, period. And that's what we set out to do from the very jump, from the very get-go. When he called me, that was the first thing I thought about. And to really bring really high-level football to Bavaria and Germany and Europe in general. And I don't mean that in terms of winning a bunch of football games and championships. That'll come. It's in terms of everything that we do is with the focus of the player perspective and giving the players, much like Joe has spoken repeatedly, giving them the resources to reach their potentials and get out of the experience what they desire. That's what motivates me. That's what motivates Sebastian. That's what motivates Thomas. And that's the ambition. And in the first year we made a lot of steps forward, but since the off season and since we were able to kind of get all of us Ravens here, we get our feet settled. And especially with the addition of Joe, addition of Kendrell, some other additions that we haven't made public yet. It's been kind of like pouring gas on a fire, and the whole process has been accelerated. But the goal has always been the same, and that's to be a premier team in this league, always competitive, with a mindset of player experience focused.
Thank you.
No more questions.
I'll just add one thing to that. I've been really impressed with the coaching meetings that we've already had, with the meetings that we had within the organization, how on the same page everybody is, which is pretty unique. I mean, in the NFL, the Browns had been around for 80 years or 70 years before I got there, and not everybody was always on the same page. Now, I'm still part of that organization, and they are on the same page, and they've reached the playoffs, and they've had, I don't know how many people follow the NFL and the Cleveland Browns. They've had an incredible number of injuries to their important players, but they're able to continue to have success and be in the playoffs and have a legitimate chance to win the Super Bowl this year because the culture that they built and the vision that they put together, starting with the Haslam family who bought the team, is one vision. It's everybody on the same page, understanding their role and how they fit into the organization. And I've been blown away for a coaching staff that hadn't met each other, that was vastly new, especially compared to last year, and the organization that's only been around for 2 seasons, to have everybody already on the same page, building a culture that's like-minded, is shocking. And I think that's a huge credit to Thomas. It's a huge credit to Sebastian. That's a huge credit to Sean for them to be able to already get on the same page and to be able to hire people that they can put together that are complementary, that are able to disagree without being disagreeable, because I think that's how you continue to push that ball towards the goal or the goal line, depending on your sport du jour. That's been really cool. And that's been one of the most inspiring and energizing things that I've experienced already, just having our meetings, even they're on Zoom, which suck. It's so cool to hear the same things that are in my mind coming out of their mouths. And that's why I was so pumped after having that first team meeting with Kendrell last night. I mean, I took like 7 pages of notes, and he promised to print it off and send it to us anyways. I was like, I can't wait. I just want to write it down right now. I'm so excited about the direction this franchise is headed.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Maybe one more. You told us about your German ancestry and how is reconnecting with that culture, with that, for example, food-wise, is going for you?
Yeah, well, it's very familiar food to me. Growing up in Milwaukee, it's like the sausage capital and the beer capital of America, because most of the city was German immigrants. And my mother's side, so her maiden name was Steinkraus, and we always knew we were all like German on that side, but I think they had come over a long time ago, so we weren't able to kind of place it. But my dad was adopted, and so recently he did a bunch of like 23andMe DNA stuff, and he signed up for Ancestry.com. So he paid for the membership, so I stole his login. And like started kind of looking back through some of the records, and I think we found that it was like my fourth great-grandpa or something like that had come over from somewhere in central Germany, like central northern Germany. I forget the name of the city. But that was one of the goals. Like we were talking about at Christmas with my parents because they're coming over in February. I'm like, once we were there, we need to like try to dig into that history and just try to find out, you know, what part of Germany we're really from. And obviously it's like 5 grandparents back. There was a lot of marriages that happened, but I'm pretty sure back then in Milwaukee, you were not able to marry anybody that wasn't German because everybody was German. So just kind of being able to reconnect to those roots is going to be really special for me. And I just felt it when I landed in Munich 2 years ago. It was my first time in Germany, and you just feel that a little bit, that connection to your past. That's very special. It's deep. It's different than like superficial feelings that you get of like little joys here and there in your life. Like connecting to the roots of your ancestors, I think is very special, and I felt it. I'm excited to kind of continue that journey of kind of exploring my family history.
Thanks.
Okay, then thank you very much. Eva, hast du noch was für dich? We have a little gift, of course, for
right.
Joe. I know he's not going to play, but you never know.
So look at that. Oh, beautiful.
So,
Well, thank
We'll
you
just
guys.
almost-
That is awesome.
let's smile for the cameras.
We got to get one of these in a 7-year-old boy size.
Oh,
'cause
okay.
My son is killing me every day. Dad, when am I getting the Ravens jersey?
All right, thank you very much. Thank you also to everybody who joined online. And yeah, if you want to have
Thank you,
any
guys.
individual interviews, of course, Joe's still here. And if you're hungry, thanks to the Leonardo Royal Munich for serving some delicious food. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.